and Queen Camilla have arrived in the United States of America at the start of a 4-day state visit, the first since Queen Elizabeth's visit in 2007. They arrived at Andrews Military Air Base in Maryland before being greeted at the White House by President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. News in detail. King Charles III and Queen Camilla have arrived in the United States of America at the start of a 4-day state visit, the first since Queen Elizabeth's visit in 2007. They arrived at Andrews Military Air Base in Maryland before being greeted at the White House by President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. Security is extremely tight after the shooting incident in Washington, D.C. at an event attended by the president on Saturday. King Charles III addressed today the U.S. Congress, and as it was expected, he expressed his sympathy over the attack. King Charles III said that despite current disagreements between the U.S. and the U.K., he emphasized that it is the time again of the two countries to find ways to go back together. As it was expected, his speech was characterized by saying many times that great international challenges is more necessary than ever to stand together and to defend democratic values. His address to the Congress of the United States of America called for reconciliation and renewal of the U.S. and U.K. partnership and advocate for shared values of tolerance, liberty, and equality. The King Charles III told U.S. lawmakers that transatlantic alliance is built on generosity of spirit and a duty to foster compassion, to promote peace, to deepen mutual understanding, and to value people of all faiths and none. On Monday, on arrival at the airbase in Maryland, the royal couple were greeted on the runway by the U.S. Chief Protocol, Monica Crowley, and the British ambassador to the U.S., Sir Christian Turner, among other dignitaries. They were then given flowers by 2 children of UK service personnel stationed in the U.S. before a band performed the British and American national anthems. This honey-coated piece of diplomacy was intended to appeal to King Charles, who is an enthusiastic supporter of beekeeping. The state visit, carried out on behalf of the UK government, is a soft power attempt to strengthen relations in a year in which US is marking 250th anniversary of independence. Queen Camilla was wearing a brooch which combines the British and US flags, which was given to the late Queen Elizabeth II by the mayor of New York on a state visit in 1957. That particular trip had been a diplomatic mission to rebuild the US and UK partnership after the Suez Crisis of 1956, which had put the two countries in dispute over Middle East war. King Charles and Queen Camilla then went to a crowded garden party attended by more than 600 people at the UK's embassy in Washington, D.C. The guests had US and UK connections with people from politics, science, charities, and military. It was the traditional garden party fare of sandwiches and scones, but the beef sandwiches had their own diplomatic significance, with the meat coming from the first tariff-free batch of British beef imported after recently negotiated deal. Among the political figures there were former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senator Ted Cruz, and UK Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper. Queen Camilla stopped for some time to talk to a group of women representing organizations campaigning against domestic abuse. There have been calls for the King and Queen to meet survivors of sex offenders Jeffrey Epstein, but that hasn't happened because jeopardizing the legal process. Since the start of the war in Sudan, the United Nations has documented more than 5,700 serious violations against children across Sudan, affecting at least 5,100 children, with over 5,300 killed or maimed. A new report of United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF titled Darfur 20 Years On, Children Under Threat draws attention to the escalating suffering of the children amid the ongoing conflict in Sudan, and that the situation is only worsening with increasing numbers of children killed and injured, especially in A1 Fasher, the capital of North Darfur in western Sudan. Many of these abuse involves explosive weapons, drone, sexual violence, abduction, and recruitment by armed groups. The ongoing conflict, UNICEF highlights, that has reignited large-scale violence, mass displacement, and acute hunger. Homes have burned, markets have attacked, and schools and health facilities are damaged or destroyed. Millions of children have lost access to education and health care, while increasing numbers face severe malnutrition, disease, and violence perpetrated by armed forces. Many families, the UN urgency laments, have fled across borders, particularly into eastern Chad, where local services already overextended struggle to cope with new arrival. UNICEF and its partners continue to provide life-saving assistance across Darfur and neighboring countries. However, insecurity, bureaucratic obstacles, and funding shortfalls severely hinder humanitarian efforts, leaving many children without support when they are most at risk. From Sudan then to Russia. A super yacht linked to one of Russian President Vladimir Putin's key allies has sailed through the Strait of Hormuz despite the ongoing blockade of critical shipping channel. Sanctioned Russia billionaire Alexei Mordashov, it traveled from Dubai to Muscat, Oman. Over the weekend, one of the few private vessels to transit through the strait in recent months. Iran held high-level talks with Russia this week as its standoff with the U.S. over the strait reopening continues. Approximately 1/5 global crude oil and liquefied natural LNG supplies normally pass through the waterway. Mursadov, who has close ties to Putin, is not listed as former owner of the Russian-flagged boat. However, Nord's records indicate it was registered to a firm owned to his wife to 2023. It is not clear whether Nord gained permission from Iran to sail through route. Mursadov made his fortune regularly through his steel and mining company, Severstal, the largest such firm in Russia. Thank you very much for being with us in this news. We are coming back with top